but it starts to make a great deal of sense. So this project, once it gets going, is going to put a lot of folks back to work. And that's really what we're here for today, is to give you ideas on how to put people back to work. Symphony Park is a potential center for medical excellence. This is where the 61 acres Mayor Oscar Goodman coined the jewel of the desert. Now is the home for the Lou Ruvo Center for Brain Health in the Cleveland Clinic. They're planning other expansions, and they've devoted almost, if I'm not mistaken, about 20 acres to future development of a healthcare cluster. Clusters are another word that we like to use. Once they get started, they start to beget others. So it becomes a virus, no pun intended. Okay, so we like to see those clusters. We like to provide another opportunities. Here's potential providers to attract. St. Jude's Children's Hospital. They're in Memphis, Tennessee. Cleveland Clinic, we already have a start here. MD Anderson, Scripps, Mayo Clinic, John Hopkins. Unfortunately, we're not thought of as a great place for health care. There's an old joke that said the best place, where do you go for good health care in Nevada? The airport. I don't like hearing that. I don't think you do either, because I like to think that we have good health care in Nevada. We need to change that mental attitude out there in the rest of the country and the world. When I see medical holidays and discover medical tourism all over the world, I'm not seeing it here, and we need to help foster it and generate it. Cities throughout the globe with centers of medical excellence benefit from quality of care available to them at these centers, as well as the benchmark that it's set for medical centers in the region. The economic impact goes without saying. Not only they're renting hotels, but they're shopping and they're going to be eating here. And the medical and non-medical service expenditures have a significant impact on local economies. I read an article, and I put it in this slide. All agree that the recipe for success for healthcare tourism is that the prices must appeal to the patients paying for part or all of the bill. It needs to be high quality. People will not travel unless the quality is high. And we need to have a breadth of specialties provided. But the one thing we need to work on, and maybe Danny back here can help us on this, is marketing. Nevada needs to come to mind as a destination for quality health care. I even came up with a logo, Danny, so you can work on that. We as architects love to vision things, and that's what this presentation is sort of all about. We start with these medical clusters. We can plan these things. It starts out as a bubble diagram, and then we move into the model phase, and before you know it, we're designing buildings that look like this. So Nevada needs to work toward building medical clusters, creating a brand name reputation for Nevada. The most successful countries and cities promoting medical tourism are those that have established multiple healthcare clusters, just like we have. Okay, so we've touched on transportation, we've touched on healthcare tourism, and last but not least, we tackled research and development. And this is a big subject. I'll try to move through this as quickly as possible. And the three areas we sort of decided to research were technology, the renewables, which is a natural, and biotech. The Silver State's long been synonymous with mining and gaming industries. And by the way, I just read an article about lithium. Does anybody know anything about that? I think that we need to really delve into that. I think we're the only state in the union that has a lithium mine, and with renewables coming up for batteries, that's going to be critical. So anything you can do to support that, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I would be all for it. The international gaming community looks to Nevada not only for trends, but to set the standards in gaming law, accounting practices, and intellectual technology. These industries are historical cornerstones. But the future will be built around renewable energy, high-tech manufacturing, and biotech industries. Our goal, of course, is to reduce volatility in Nevada's economy. Nobody wants to see this downturn again, at least not to the extent that we've seen it. So access to effective education, solid transportation, public safety infrastructure, and a healthy population, and an efficiently functioning government are essential. What was I going to say? There was I think I put a slide in here. Yeah. We experienced the worst downturn, and as we look across the region, we had the most volatile economy of all. And oddly enough, even 10 years ago, we were still the most volatile. So that's something that really speaks to this goal of reducing the volatility here. Unless we have a broad range of companies and manufacturing cores and different corporations coming here, we're going to be saddled with one industry or two that will ultimately promote that same kind of volatility. So what we're looking for is leveraging Nevada's natural resources and existing infrastructure to attract technology producing and green industries, and that's the key to our objective. So our location gives Nevada great access to large consumer and export markets, most notably in California and Asia. Now you can start to see that once we start to attract these companies, we're still getting, it kind of goes back, they work together. The transportation networks have to be here. And another thing, I read an article recently where it was Las Vegas, and I don't mean to just focus on Las Vegas, but it was the number 3 city in the country that they predicted will rebound quickly because of the infrastructure that we had invested in over the last 15 years. There was a city in North Carolina and Florida, and we were number 3. So we've got to keep that going. We can't stop. Anyway, our metric is venture capital. We need to attract more venture capital to the market. Instead of looking for revenue, which is difficult to generate here, we've got to get the venture capitalists. There's over $6 trillion sitting on the sideline right now waiting for investments, and their shareholders are pressuring them to invest. So we've got to look for ways to attract those venture capitalists. Our goal is to increase venture capital investments to $300 million. Okay, and as you can see by this chart, we're way behind. We're up there with Idaho, Montana, New Mexico. Look at California, Utah, and Arizona. And even Oregon, they're attracting hundreds of millions of dollars. So we've got some work to do. So again, our strategy is to increase venture capital funding. Through local and statewide economic development agencies, the state could create and coordinate an investment council that would market itself to venture capitalists. Strategy 2 is incentives. Incentives matter. We must review our current incentive systems and improve on our excellent regulatory environment. Okay, maximize our incentives, which include tax breaks, tax credits, and tax rebates and exemptions. So we've got to attract those venture capitalists and other companies moving here. Strategy 3, we've got to promote agency cooperation. It was alarming when we learned that local economic development agencies, state economic development agencies often do not coordinate and sometimes compete with one another. That's got to stop. So we need, there should be a more efficient allocation of resources and collaboration among local groups to produce a cohesive statewide marketing approach to attract new companies and help expand existing ones. And again, expanding is just as important as bringing new ones. If we can help them expand, they're already here. All they have to do then is they can hire. Number 1 goal, again, is to get people working. So we've got to get the folks that are already here looking for jobs back to work. Next focus within research and development was technology. So Southern Nevada currently has infrastructure and technology necessary to conduct efficient operations for nearly all high-tech facilities. And we've got some great base here. SwitchX. They're already planning a 1.6 million square foot data center. Plus 6 technologies, and I'm not mentioning, I can't record them all here, but IBC Tech Nevada, HP White Laboratories, these are across the state. But when we researched the top 10 high-tech sector U.S. companies, we found none of them here, and they include Texas Instruments, Apple, Hewlett-Packard, Intel, Dell, IBM, Microsoft, Motorola, all these companies you've heard of. They're not here. Why not? Next is renewable energy. Now, there's no argument here. Renewables, they're the key to the future, and Nevada is a perfect place for just about each one of them. Solar was the first. We're the number 1 state. I love having these charts that tell me we're number 1 in something that's not bad. Nevada is the number 1 state in the nation in solar watts produced per capita. Remember that. Nevada's average 270 days of sunshine combined with ample open land make us the perfect location for the development of solar power. And when we talk to folks about moving here, the one chart that I found that I liked being on the bottom of was the total annual operating cost per technical person for a high-tech company. We were the lowest in the country. That's a good thing. Okay, it takes $27,000 per person versus $38,000 per person. So, and that's again, it's $1 million really. So that's a great chart to be at the bottom of. Let's capitalize on that. We have two of the world's largest solar projects, and they're operating in Las Vegas. One's 64 megs, the other is 14 megs. And they're both run by the same company, Acciona. ASRA is also here, high-capacity solar thermal power manufacturing. Now, I love producing the power, but we've been talking about bringing the manufacturers here. This really brings the job. I don't mind supplying electricity to the rest of the country, but let's put some people to work. So by attracting these companies to come here, build in manufacturing plants, and then supply that to these solar fields makes all the sense in the world. So we have First Solar, and again, I mentioned this in our last meeting, that in October of 2010, Interior Secretary Ken Salazar approved the first large-scale solar energy project planned in Nevada. I'm not sure when construction starts on this. Maybe it already has, but it's expected to create 300 jobs. That's music to our ears. So we need more of that. So here's some potential companies to attract: Siemens, Spire, and Suntech Power. They're the third largest solar company in the country. And they're not here. Existing base for wind. We have Nevada Wind Company. We also have Mariah Power. Lots of wind up here in the north last time I checked. It wasn't blowing this morning, and I was grateful for that. However, when we looked at the top 10 wind producers, manufacturers in the world, none of them are here. Oddly enough, 1 out of 10 is from the United States here, and that's GE. So I think that's probably the first one we need to talk to. Geothermal. I can't talk to you from Vegas about geothermal because we have no pockets there, but you have plenty up here. You already have a great base with Nevada Geothermal Power and Ormat Technologies, but there are many potential companies to attract, which include Razor, Calpine, U.S. Geothermal, Alt-Rock, and many others. And last, relative to research and development, is biotechnology. Technological advancements have changed the face of industry, and Nevada recognizes an aggressive commitment to science, engineering, and technology, and it must be sustained. Anchored by the University of Nevada, biotech hubs are growing in Reno and Las Vegas. Approximately 85% of the industry's output and 75% of the industry's employment is generated by the pharmaceutical preparation manufacturing sector. We have also a terrific existing base, including NPDL Biopharma in Incline Village, Cardiovascular Biotherapeutics in Las Vegas, and IDEX Laboratories in Las Vegas. Beyond that, we also have Sierra Sciences, Radiant Research, Charles Rivers Laboratory. I'm glad I did the research on this because I did not know any of this. I didn't know we had this many biotech companies here. So it was delightful to see that we had this. But we have far more work to do. We can attract so much more with the base that we have. And again, I like to look at the top 10, and none of them are here. Amgen, Genentech, Serrano, that's not a pepper, Biogen, UCB, and on. And what's nice about it is they start doing these buildings that look like that, and that's what we all want to be doing. And you want to see them on your campuses as well. So let's recap for a second here. We've touched on multimodal transportation, healthcare, tourism, and research and development in all of its forms. We were wrapping things up. We were kind of saying what a great job we had done, and we got to chatting and said, you know what? Without an adequately educated workforce, very few of the previously mentioned goals and objectives can be met. So, education became our fourth focus area. You knew that was coming, didn't you? So we kind of divided it into 3 areas: early childhood, elementary and secondary, and our universities. So it's really incumbent upon all of us to raise the educational attainment that we have. So we've got to increase the share of adults with at least high school diplomas. Our graduation rates are not where they need to be, and that's one of those charts that we saw earlier on in our studies and found that we were at the bottom, and we don't want to see that. So we've got to encourage higher education, associate degrees and higher. Okay.